A plot is underway to remove masterpieces worth millions from Britain's biggest galleries. And replace them with freshly painted fakes. It's one of the boldest swindles in art history. The fakes will be hidden in plain sight amongst the country's most important collections. Will anybody spot the fakes? This might look like a typical suburban home, but behind closed doors, something far from ordinary has been going on. A work of art is being created in total secret.
It's quite a scale of a task I've got ahead of me. It's a bit daunting.
An artist with 7 decades of experience is putting everything she has into one painting.
I just put as many hours as I can in every day and just not do anything else.
Which will hang among Victorian masterpieces in London's prestigious Guildhall art gallery.
It is a challenge, a tremendous challenge.
But it's a fake.
I'm nervous because it's a lot of work to do in a rather short time. I have to get it absolutely accurate. I should be hoodwinking them.
And her fake is just the tip of the iceberg. The market in art forgeries is worth a fortune.
A £70,000 Lowry painting fake.
And no wonder when real art goes for such huge sums.
85,000, 90,000.
A genuine Picasso recently broke the record for a painting sold at auction.
Picasso Van Belge, $160 million. Sold.
Criminals all over the world have tried to make millions from mock masterpieces.
Cops in Moscow have arrested a father and daughter team suspected of forging works of art.
Greenhouse family touted their goods to the biggest names in the arts world.
Some countries around the world have suggested that up to 50% of the art market is in some way illicit.
But could a fake still fool us all if we knew to look out for it? For one incredible month, our fake paintings have been planted in 7 of the UK's most important art galleries. Each one of them has replaced one precious original with a copy. The public knows that each gallery has a fake, and they're competing to find it.
I'm not seeing many cracks in it.
I can't spot anything that's incongruous.
It's a really hard one to tell, it's quite tricky.
They'll be studying every stroke of the brush.
To spot the difference, if any.
Any of them could be the fake, but it's a bit smudged.
Asking themselves what makes a real masterpiece.
The way he's caught the light on her face is just magnificent.
It looks like a photograph. It's so perfect.
And if the fake successfully slips under the radar, does it matter if art is genuine or not?
If you are a good faker, then you are a good artist.
It's good that they can paint, but it's a bit mean to copy other people's.
We're in the heart of the City of London, in search of the fake at the Guildhall Art Gallery. It was founded in 1886 to be a collection of art treasures worthy of the capital city. But today, there's one work of art hiding in there which is perhaps not quite so worthy. The hunt for the Victorian fake is on. The Guildhall Art Gallery has a significant collection of Victorian art, including over 300 paintings, all created between 1837 and 1901. During this time, artists responded to the world by either depicting it with narrative paintings, telling stories about the world around them, or creating purely aesthetic work, prized for its sheer beauty. Today, British Victorian paintings can sell for millions. That's if they're genuine. But what if they're fake? One artist has agreed to try and fool the public, but Anne Wright is not the sort of person you'd associate with acts of deception.
Well, I just hope the copy I'm going to do will convince people that it is the original.
Drawing on a lifetime of experience, Anne is hoping to pull off the perfect fake in the biggest undertaking of her career.
I'm nervous because, having seen the original, well, it'd take me at least 6 weeks solid work, possibly more. I'm a bit daunted.
Anne has had paintings in many prestigious galleries, and she's even been featured at the Royal Academy's summer exhibition. Although predominantly an original artist, Anne is not shy about painting the odd copy.
When I'm asked to do copy a painting, I love doing it. It's terrific fun. I've even copied my own paintings.
Whereas all of Anne's copies have been above board, she's hoping this one will be mistaken for the real thing.
I don't know how the public will see it, really. I just hope they'll like it as much as the original.
To avoid detection, Anne must begin just as the Victorians began, with a mottled brown base called a ground.
Most Victorian painters used a ground because sometimes you would have the ground showing through. It helps with the tones.
To compare, Anne has a full-size photograph of the original and is adding the same grid to both her replica and the canvas so she can copy the image methodically.
4, 5, 6. Each little square has a bit of the painting in it, and if you just copy it exactly, it will look pretty good. Can I see that? Oh dear. It's rather like doing a jigsaw puzzle in a way. If you're doing it freehand, which is perfectly possible to do, you can get it completely out of proportion. I draw with paint and white spirit. The first thing you must do is just to get the first lot in, and then everything else can relate. This really is the centre of the painting, more or less. It is tricky, the first part.
Anne's going to do her best to fool the public this time, but she's not planning on making a career out of tricking people.
I've never been tempted to go into forgery, no. You're doing it to pretend and make money out of it. It's not legal.
The doors are opening at London's Guildhall Art Gallery, and Anne's finished fake is hiding amongst this collection of Victorian art. Visitors are piling in to guess which one is the phony.
Last night I was Googling at about 2 a.m. I had to spot fake Victorian paintings.
It was the golden frames.
Golden frames and cracked varnish.
Just looking for signs and clues. Trying to be a bit Sherlock here.
This is very interesting to see. It's painting CSI, so...
Some are using modern technology to find it.
My secret weapon is images of the original paintings. Hopefully try and catch out the forger, so to speak.
Others are using less conventional techniques.
So let's feel the vibration. It speaks like waves of the sea. I will be trying to work from intuition and energy.
Fakes are so good these days. They fool so many people, so I don't know. Maybe I'll get lucky.
Anne's fake is hiding in plain sight among 10 Victorian masterpieces. Could Anne's copy be one of these narrative paintings? A style very fashionable in the day. They told a story through a painted snapshot and often featured ordinary life for the working classes. Or one of these aesthetic and decorative works which provided an escape from day-to-day hardships. There is a bogus painting hiding in plain sight. So, will the public be able to tell which one was painted more than 100 years after the others? And will you? Fake paintings have been placed within some of the finest art collections in the UK, and visitors from north to south are trying their hardest to spot them. In London's Guildhall Art Gallery, our fake painting is hiding within the highly prized Victorian collection. And everyone's competing to find it.
That's such a cool painting. It's really good how she's done all the shadows. That's such detail.
It's very poetical, it's very romantic. And the eyes are beautifully captured.
And actually like this section just here with the cups and the fabric, minus his sad face.
But to spot a fake Victorian painting, you need to know the makings of a real one, which is where art historian Rose Boldest comes in. So what kind of paintings did your Victorian like?
There are so many different facets to Victorian painting. We can see aesthetic paintings, we can see narrative paintings, we can see portraits.
In terms of novels, they like big, baggy Dickens, Thackeray, Trollope.
Well, you've just used the key word, novels. I mean, the Victorians were obsessed with stories. And actually, when you look at Victorian narrative painting, you can see these stories being kind of uncovered within the very brushstrokes of the paintings. Some of the key themes that artists were interested in were things like poverty and destitution, illness, death, love, sometimes illicit love as well.
Did the artists we're talking about have that kind of life experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, they were living in the cities, and the city was the big place in the Victorian world. On one hand, you have people wanting to represent what these new cities were like. On the other hand, you have artists who really want to escape it and simply just trying to create art that was purely beautiful in its own right.
Remembering joys that have passed away. It's a bit morbid. Definitely think it's Victorian already.
Jasmine is an artist who's hoping her brushwork skills might help on her hunt for the fake.
I do portrait paintings using oils. I don't do it as a full-time job yet, but keep an eye out. I think I might be able to spot the fake. Don't quote me on it. So I think the story here is you've got a young boy, perhaps with his little sister. They are the brightest thing in the painting, so the focus is on them. And they're looking at a poster for the Grand Christmas Pantomime, which looks really creepy and scary, which is definitely Victorian to me. You can see lots of cracks have started to appear where the painting's raised, just going down. So I think this one's older, definitely.
The way we know it's a narrative painting is because it has a narrative title, isn't it? Remembering joys that have passed away. They are remembering having been to this pantomime the year before. The poor things aren't going to get to see Christopher Biggins as Widow Twankey. I mean, the Victorians had a big thing about children, didn't they? They were very sentimental about poor children.
Absolutely, and that's simply because there was such a big problem in the 19th century, and children would end up either living on the streets or in the dreaded workhouse.
The popularity of narrative paintings coincided with great social changes during Victorian times. Industrialisation meant people flooded to the cities, and these huge throngs of residents created lots of material for writers and a ready market for stories that might alleviate the drudgery of life.
It was an explosion in the printed press. You get classic novelists like Dickens who are publishing in magazines. The Victorian reader might have several novels on the go at once, and these were all featured in magazines of the day.
The Victorian era saw a massive expansion of printed words and pictures.
The working classes, of course, in this period were becoming ever more literate, so they were able to read these stories, and they were great cultural events. The death of Little Nell in the old curiosity shop was a massive talking point. I suppose the equivalent today would be like a soap opera.
It wasn't only the printed word that became much more available. In 1842, London produced the world's first weekly paper that was fully illustrated.
Art, as now fostered in the peculiar department of wood engraving, has in fact become the bride of literature.
New technology meant printing was transformed, allowing images to be duplicated in their thousands rather than hundreds.
So suddenly, images are moving from the elite collector into the homes of the working classes. So this is really a democratic art form.
This new democracy fed back into painting, where suddenly every aspect of the modern city was considered a worthy subject for art.
This is kind of just like a romantic evening, I guess.
Yeah, we have seen some pictures like this.
On the violin, it looks artificial, like fake digital kind of thing. Yeah, it's too straight.
So obviously these Victorian narrative painters dealt with sort of wide social evils. They weren't above doing paintings of teeny weeny, not very important little aristocratic moments.
Yeah, they painted all sections of society, and James Tissot really was the man who was painting the high life. So it's called Too Early.
So these people have arrived too early for a party.
I think it's probably just her, actually.
Oh, just her?
Just
well, she wouldn't
her.
have arrived at a party on her own.
Well, it looks like she might have done. That's another faux pas that she's made.
I think she's done something a bit worse than be early.
What might have she done?
She's arrived early, but I know she's got her dress tucked into her knickers or something. I mean, it's just something, there's been an enormous fuss to make.
You don't go to a party on your own in the 19th century. And most tantalising of all, we can see two of the servants.
Just to see the early person.
To see the early person.
Come look at this, as a woman, she is early, it is terrible.
But they're tittering as well. I mean, this is a classic Tissot-esque sort of painting. He's making a social commentary. These Victorian artists were really being celebrated. Tissot was incredibly successful, and there's a real feel of the photograph here as well. Look at the sheen of the wood, and you can see every last little kind of hole within that rattan chair. I mean, he's done it so well.
This is quite bright, this painting, isn't it?
Yeah. The dresses are very frilly. I like the fan.
8-year-old Madeleine has been brought along to the gallery by her grandma, Ronnie.
My favourite lesson at school is art. Well, I'm going to be looking for, like, if the strokes are a bit new, and I have the feeling that'll be the fake one. Look at the two children having a sneaky pee.
See, in those days, they would have had to have been in bed early.
Why?
Yeah, not staying up till 9:30 like you did.
So have you found the fake? Which one is it? Is it that one?
We don't know.
Nobody knows. What do you think's happening in this picture?
I think that it's like a big party.
Do you know what the picture's called?
Too early.
It's too early. So why do you think there are no people there?
Because it's too early for them to get up.
It's too early. Do you like this painting?
Yeah, it's got a lot of detail in. Look at the light, it's so cool.
No faker would be given the task of recreating this amount of detail.
In order to fool the public, it was essential for Anne to recreate the same level of detail.
It's very important to get it accurate. I'm copying something, I'm not making it up. I'm going to try and do it well myself.
Victorian painters normally sketched the outline first, known as an underdrawing, then worked on the colour by blocking out the shades.
I'm trying to achieve the whole thing tonally, really. Lights and the darks. There were many very, very good painters. Absolutely exquisite detail, and yet they had a vibrancy about them. The brushwork is very important. If you can look at the painting and see if they've used a wide brush or a thin brush, and it's very hard, that bit, and sometimes you can't get it exactly right. It is a challenge, a tremendous challenge, and I enjoy that. It's good fun.
At the Guildhall Art Gallery, the fake painting is hanging alongside 9 originals for all to see.
I think this will not be the fake. It does look very old.
It looks as though there's lots of paint texture. That looks quite old and possibly original.
I don't know.
One creative couple is on the hunt. Michael runs exhibitions and art projects, and Ibu is a painter.
Looks a pretty miserable day, doesn't it?
It's a rainy day.
It's got to be London, hasn't it, with that weather, with that rain and that umbrella.
I think we'll work together. Michael's more knowledgeable.
I have an eye for painting.
As a painting, it's well put together. The use of colour, the figs, it's excellent. Particularly the hands and the face, the way he's caught the light on her face is just magnificent. There's some skill there.
Also, and you've got a lot of fog in the background here, but none over their faces. It could be an artistic expression of ensuring that we see their love. Look, they're in love. Look. Oh, they are.
I would say this is the real deal, because it was done with some sincerity, some intent. If it is a fake, I'd say good on them.
It's like somebody's died. But I do really like the colours in this one. How they've done the blacks. It's not just plain black. You've got blues, greens, yellows.
I think this might be an older one, just from the build-up of the paint. It's a really hard one to tell, it's quite tricky.
Another day in the gallery is drawing to a close. But the identity of the fake remains a mystery.
Whoever did the forging, they need to go into faking art, because they can make millions out of it, because it was so difficult, I couldn't tell.
All over the country, people are on the hunt for the 7 fakes that have been placed in some of our greatest public galleries. At London's Guildhall Art Gallery, the mock Victorian masterpiece has been hiding among originals for a month. During this time, nearly 10,000 people have been through the doors.
I reckon that it would be easier to copy a small one than a large one.
I think that might be the fake one. Just looks too good to be that old, I think.
It looks a bit like a photo.
Knowing that there is a fake is making us very suspicious. It's like someone in here is a murderer.
Every Victorian painting is under suspicion, but not all have a tale or narrative to tell. So, well, naturally, I'm looking for my story, and I can basically see 3 ladies cleaning a side table.
Well, it's not really about the narrative. This is about the beauty of art, this painting. It was part of a movement that was known as the aesthetic movement, and a whole number of artists wanted to create an art that was beautiful. This is the slogan of art for art's sake.
I noticed it's called pomegranates, which I assume are the fruit in there. It's quite random. He could have chosen to call it leaves, couldn't he? Or jug.
Pomegranates are here because pomegranates are beautiful, because of the colouring of the pomegranate.
Well, he's taken the pomegranate colour and given it to her dress and the sideboard.
Absolutely. So it's really all about line and colour, and that is classic aestheticism.
Another sleuth on the lookout for the fake is part-time painter Michael.
My idea was to take an image of the original and then compare that with the painting on the wall. So I'm really looking at each petal. I can't see any difference so far. I'm going to look at the folds of the dress, because they can be really difficult to copy. All looks fine. The other thing is, I would have wanted to actually smell the paint. But I can't do that because it's under glass. I can't.
The St. Croix family all share a love of art, passed on from the days Mum and Dad, Paula and Michael, met at art college.
Sometimes it's best to really stand down or kneel down to look at the surface. It is very flat.
I think there might be a few arguments along the way and challenging each other.
That's the way he's applied the paint, it's gesture.
I'm just trying to compare them.
That's how we're going to work together to find that fake, and we will find that fake.
Looking at all the other paintings, the viewers always seem to be looking out towards us. This is the one picture in which you've got the subject has got their back to you. There's something about it, but it's very flat. It's a very, very flat painting.
But then we have the pomegranates.
The pomegranate is not flat.
It is. It is very flat.
And also, the frame to me it just seems like a wooden frame that's just been tarnished over. Folks, listen. This is the fake.
Many visitors are studying the frames carefully, thinking a replica could give away the fake painting.
It's not really ornate, but I think I would have expected it to be a bit sort of duller in a way.
Whether it's an original frame
or not is the question.
But they could be barking up the wrong tree. A replica frame here doesn't necessarily point to the phony. During World War II, most of the artwork was removed from the Guildhall and stored in safer, rural locations. The gallery was struck during the Blitz and burnt down in 1941. Most of the paintings were saved, but many frames were damaged or destroyed.
A lot of paintings were reframed post-war. Hence, in the gallery today, there's quite a lot of 1950s, 1960s frames around older paintings.
Caroline knows how crucial it is to choose the right frame.
It can be quite a subjective choice, but you can definitely tell when a painting is in the wrong frame. And if you get the right frame for the right painting, it can really stop you in your tracks.
One man is all about making the right frame for the right painting. Tim Haysel is a specialist in creating replica frames that look like originals.
This is Wawa, it's an African timber. This is ideal, it's light, it's very dry, machines incredibly well. It's not just about slapping 4 pieces of wood together. You really need to focus on that piece of artwork itself and create almost like a window frame to keep the viewer's eye focused on the work itself.
Many Victorian frames were covered in ornate moulding, and Tim uses the same moulds today so his work looks authentic.
This is a rope twist pattern. We've got to cast that maybe 30 times to keep the pattern moving. I feel it's very important to get something periodically correct and aesthetically correct as well. It's just like making bread. And now we'll just press it in as firm as we can so we can get a good cast.
Most people want their hard work to receive recognition, but for Tim, it's the opposite.
I think the public really will only notice the frame if it's the wrong frame. When I walk into a gallery, naturally I look at the frames first because I appreciate the effort that's put into making those frames. This is exactly what I was after, a really, really nice, strong, clear cast. We'll trim it off the backing and then laying it onto the frame. And we'll just keep repeating the process until we've gone all the way around then.
To make the frames look authentic, Tim uses traditional gold leaf.
Gilding in the Victorian age was quite a luxury. Each piece of gold just slightly overlaps the neck, so it's a good way to distinguish an old gilded frame from an artificial gilded frame. When you've gilded a frame and it's incredibly bright, you've got to tone that thing down to make it look as though it's 150 or 200 years old. It's a tough task, but also a very flattering task as well, to think that some of our frames are going to be hanging alongside some of the greatest frames historically.
Lisa used to own a gallery in Henley that sold copies of traditional oil paintings.
The gallery that we ran that sold paintings this size, probably for about £850. We literally did it by size. People would sometimes come in and ask us, is this going to go up in value? And of course, we were thinking, no, they're fakes. They're never going to go up in value. I think a good copy can be as good as the original. Just because somebody did it 200 years ago doesn't necessarily make it any better. Obviously, if you're looking at it as an investment, then go with the original.
So will someone who's so familiar with fakes be able to spot one today?
I think the fabric is quite finely painted. Her face has that quintessential Victorian look, pale, pale skin and the flushed cheeks. And the hands are quite delicate, so this one doesn't really strike me as a fake.
It's so loving, isn't it? It's a really, very tender.
Maria is a psychic. She runs spiritual workshops with her friend Marianne, who's an artist.
Every time I look at the painting, I connect on a very deep level, and you can read the painting, you can read even the energy of the artist through connecting to it. Ladies, they see themselves in beautiful dresses, standing there waiting for their love to come.
I've seen this dress in my past life. My son's wedding. And the wedding dress had a very similar style.
So let's feel the vibration. It has wavy energy, so there are waves of tranquility, of care.
You're speaking in a very spiritual way about this painting.
Yes, that's what I work with, spirituality, and I found a way to feel paintings through the hand.
Would it work
Would
with
you like
me?
to try?
Yeah.
Yeah, focus on the energy of the painting, gently touching your palm. And notice if there are any differences in the energy. Listen to what you feel.
I'm new to this, so I don't know, but what are you feeling?
I feel a very subtle, wavy energy, so like the sea.
Does the spiritual approach help you to discover which is the fake?
Let's hope so. Maybe the really, really old ones will have more depth and more layers to it, maybe. Strong, dramatic. It feels like, yes, there's some seriousness between them. I don't feel much. I don't feel any emotion. And usually you can feel emotion very strongly. Very strange.
Anne worked intensely to replicate the emotion and the precision in her chosen painting.
It's a huge challenge, the detail in a Victorian painting. And to not get it too stiff, it has to be free. It's harder, really, to paint something that's free. It's a mixture between technique and emotion, really. The painting I chose is by Frank Hall, and it's called The Lord Gave and the Lord Hath Taken Away. I was very attracted to this painting. I loved it. I love the way he's painted the figures and the composition of the white tablecloth, the still life of the cups. There's a story in everything, and beautifully painted, exquisite.
The original was so popular in its day that even Queen Victoria tried to buy it. But its owner refused to sell.
I'm going to paint this area of the painting, which includes a bookcase. Oh, God, I'll have to leave it. I won't be making it look old by a special trick or anything. I'm just going to copy it straight, because that will, I think, make it look old anyway.
The Victorian era was an exciting time for painters, as advances in chemistry meant new colours were invented and could be used for the very first time.
I haven't got much black a lot. I'm using other dark colours. I'm enjoying doing it. I wanted to get it right. And if they see this thing and think it's what Frank Hall did, I should be thrilled.
I think it could be slightly middle class, lower class, because look, even the house looks a bit ramshackled. Look,
But is it the fake? Does that make it the fake? Because everything seems rushed.
This isn't the fake.
You don't think this is the fake?
No.
That's not the fake.
Well, here's a gloomy one. They're all in black, so our narrative here is about death.
It's taken from a book by a woman called Dinah Crick. And in the book, it explains this moment when the patriarch has died and his eldest son steps into the role as the head of the family.
This is literally actually a painting of a moment in a book.
It is, exactly. We've got lots of wonderful details here. Look at all the light reflecting on the blue and white pottery here. You can see the sort of fabrics of her dress and the flowers. I mean, it's quite a detailed painting, so a lot of work would have had to have been put into this.
The fake might still be fooling many visitors, but Michael has an advantage. A copy of the original to hand.
I've noticed that in the image, the first white book here extends slightly above the book to its left, the dark book. On the original, it seems to extend quite a bit higher. It's also noticeable that there's a little bit of light here, a line of light. Doesn't seem to be here, but it should be here. I must say I'm getting quite suspicious about this one.
Most visitors are guessing without a comparison, and one detail is throwing them off the scent.
Those eyes are... I didn't notice that before. Those are really weird.
So they may have forgotten to do the eyes. It's very demonic.
I don't think it would be anything as obvious as the painting which has a man who literally has no eyes. And if that's the one, then it was a double bluff.
But to make a convincing fake, a realistic face is crucial.
The faces need working on, particularly I'm not happy with this one. I haven't quite got her expression, which is very annoying. It's important because she is really the central figure, and it's important to get her right. I'm just going to rub it down a bit, scrape the paint. I don't want to get too clogged up with paint. And I've got some fine sandpaper here. That's okay, that's fine now. But I just haven't got it there, and I just need to... Okay.
Anne is drawing on her 60 years of experience to create the perfect fake. But under pressure like this, it's still a challenge.
I'll just have another go at this head of the girl. It's quite free in the background, but the heads are very precisely painted. It's very elaborate, her hair. Her face is leaning forward. I didn't have the angle quite right. It's better than it was. I think it's come on quite well, actually. I don't want to mess about with it anymore.
Our fake Victorian painting has been hanging in London's Guildhall Art Gallery for 4 weeks. And over 500 people have entered the competition to guess which one it is. It's time for the visitors to take one final look at the paintings before the copy is exposed.
What I think I can see is the initial lines of where the artist has started sketching out where everything should be. So I've looked really closely. You've got a black line over here. There's another black line over here. One going down there. And see this one, it follows all the way over here. And I can't see any cracks now. So I think this is a fake.
The other 9 genuine paintings are also raising questions.
Is that a roller blind? That seems to be a little odd to me. I'm thinking they didn't have John Lewis, so they couldn't have had roller blinds.
This one's very bright, very sort of like almost fresh paint. And that shoe is just so poorly painted. If it's not a fake, that's a bad shoe.
It's a really, really good copy, I think, that Anne has done really well.
The one person, I think, here in this room today who thinks that they spotted the grid.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it was a bit unfortunate that she didn't cover that bit of grid up.
Well, nobody else has spotted it, though.
No.
So it's only one person. Imagine if that hadn't been there, she'd have fooled everyone.
Yeah.
A lot of people seem to think it's this one here of the Tissot last evening, which because it's a bit too photographic, a bit too realistic.
Yeah, and likewise with this other Tissot as well. And I think one of the problems with that painting is those funny kind of lights that are shining in the man's glasses.
A number of people seem to think it's the pomegranates, the fruity one.
Well, it looks fresh as well. The paint looks fresh.
Freshly done with Dulux, it looks like to me.
Yeah. Bright colours.
Maybe that's the thing about Victorian painting, is that it's not fashionable now, so these bright colours and all sorts of energy, it's not what we expect from a painting, so they sort of all look like fakes. Before the fake is revealed, the visitors must make a final decision on which one is the phony.
I think the last evening painted by Tissot is the fake. I found it very shiny and bright. It didn't have the sort of signs of age.
I think it's the too early.
Too early?
Yeah.
And which one did you choose, babe?
Tissot, the too early.
Too early. And you're still sticking to...
the Lord gave. I'm not convinced by the frame. It seems really... When you looked at the other ones, it's been shined all the way around.
I'm going for the net mender.
The number one choice for the imposter was the net mender, with 14% of the vote.
I think the fake is probably the Frank Hole.
We think from visual and energy, we'd go with the Frank Hole.
The fake really split opinion evenly, as just over 12% thought the fake could be either of the 2 Tissot paintings. And after a month, only 13% of people spotted Anne's copy of the Frank Hole.
Without the iPad, I think I would have found it very, very difficult.
Anne's work was a success, with a staggering 87% suspecting one of the genuine artworks. The visitors are still in the dark, but not for long. The genuine Frank Hole masterpiece is soon to see the light of day.
Wow, look at that. Yes. We've got it right.
Very, very excited. We spotted the fake, so I'm really chuffed about that.
The artist's done an amazing job. I couldn't do that.
Frank Hole painted the original at just 23. Painting hers at 81, how will Anne's compare?
There's a lot of deep, intense, profound energy. It's very different from the previous one. The other one didn't feel at all.
Had nothing.
If you stand from this angle, there are no cracks.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Can you see them?
No cracks.
No cracks. So there you go. It's so much gloomier though than the fake.
I thought it was a really good painting. Like the copy was like almost the same, but it was a bit brighter.
That was an exciting one, wasn't it?
It was amazing, and now they're really looking closely at it. They're trying to work out, what the differences are, and there are very few differences. I mean, yes, the colour has been a bit of a problem here, in that the original is much darker, it's
Not
aged.
much.
No, I think it's the tablecloth, and because of that bright white paint, it has aged, of course, over 130 years or so. But it's a really good copy, and she's nailed it.
Within this, you've got to really study the paintings. I've looked at them a lot more than I usually would look at painting.
I've definitely enjoyed coming to an art gallery.
But with the real painting back in pride of place in the Guildhall, Anne's copy must be hidden from view, branded a fake and kept out of harm's way. Next time, it's the final.
We're going to up the ante. This has been stepped up immeasurably. I'm feeling the weight of this now.
There is one remaining fake.
I don't have a strategy. It's just me and this and this.
Hidden in the oldest museum in the country. Before this, it was child's play. Now it's time to really stand up and be counted.
They have got such a big task ahead of them.
I'm the most competitive man you'll ever meet.
10 of our successful fake spotters compete to win the ultimate prize.
If I get it right, I'm going to do a victory lap with the Ashmolean.